Hey, Durham. Congratulations on the contract extension. When you were initially drafted eons ago, did you think that you would be here this long? And also, did you ever factor in that you would not only outlast Mike Gesicki, but start more games than Mike Gesicki?
Well, I guess first and foremost, it was always the plan to stick around this long and, hopefully a good amount longer. That's everyone's plan. But, referencing Mike, I would tell him right now that, it's no surprise that I've started more games and have hung around longer. I tell people all the time that the Dolphins, made a mistake in 2018, taking him in the second, me in the fourth. And I tell him that all the time. So, that's nothing that I wouldn't say right to him, and I'm sure he would probably say similar things back to me.
Alan?
Hey, Durham. Yeah, that was funny. Safe to say that you and Mike are still friends, even though he's on a different team now?
Oh yeah. I mean, we still talk every day, and he makes his trips down here, and I'm sure I'll make a couple up there in the coming weeks. So yeah, we're just as close as ever.
On a serious note, your reaction to getting the extension?
Yeah, I mean that's always exciting. To be shown that they value me here in a place that I've been for so long and that I've come to really enjoy living in. It's home. I've been here for 5 years, so it was really exciting just to know that I have some value here and that I'll be here for the next couple of years.
Thanks, Durham.
David?
Hey, Durham. What do you think about the Dolphins possibly pursuing a tight end in this draft? Have you taken a look at the tight end prospects, and is there anyone you like?
It's funny. I mean, with just bodies in general, we'll obviously have to add to our room in the next weeks to months. So obviously everyone understands that part of it. And it's funny, early on in my career, I think since I still knew people in college, I would follow it a little bit just because I had either a tie to them or something like that. But now, 6 years in, I have no idea. I don't know if I could tell you any names besides, guys coming out of Notre Dame that I know through other people. So I have no idea when it comes to things like that. But luckily that's not my job until we bring somebody in, and then I get involved.
Thanks.
Barry?
Hi, Durham. Congrats on the contract. So you are the only player on offense who has been here for 3 head coaches, Adam, Brian, and now Mike. What do you think is the reason for that you've been able to survive 3 regimes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Timing in terms of contracts and things of that nature. But I've said this, multiple times throughout my career here, is that the NFL is really an adapt or die game. So it's, whether it's the same head coach, same offensive coordinator, or a different one, things are going to change every year. You're going to have to improve on things every year, and you're going to have to adapt to, something new every year. So I think I knew that really early on in my career. And that was just something that I tried to take into account, every time we go into a new off season and a new calendar year in the NFL. So I think that mentality has helped me along the last 5-6 years.
Thanks.
Travis?
Hey, Durham, good to see you, man. I wanted to go back to something that Coach McDaniel had mentioned last year about kind of in this offense, tight ends having to relearn the way they play the games. I was curious how coming back into year 2 of that offense is beneficial to a player at your position.
Yeah, I think it's hugely, beneficial for us that have been in the offense for more than 1 year now. And he's right. Honestly, it's a different style really across the board at a lot of positions. But at the tight end position, there's a lot of things you do in this offense that you don't necessarily do in others. So I think just having the experience of a full, like I said, calendar year in this offense. There's a comfort level that becomes established, and I'm excited to kind of get back on the field here in a couple of weeks to build on that, and through the summer and into training camp. So there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve with this offense at the tight end position, and I think the sky's the limit once we can at every position across the board get on the same page.
if I could just follow up real quick, you mentioned you're excited to get back on the field. Just kind of curious to measure the level of buzz and excitement with your teammates and the coaches coming back this week.
Yeah, I mean, the boys are back, so that's always exciting. That's first and foremost, just get around everyone, and that's the best time of the year when we're all back in the building together. And yeah, I mean, obviously, when you look at us on paper, there's a lot of talent on the team, but that only goes so far. So I think everyone's excited to get on the field to try to live up to expectations, establish some high expectations, and really get this thing going. So I think we're all excited about it.
Thanks, Durham.
Hal,
Hi, Durham. A minute ago, you mentioned that you try to keep up with some of the Notre Dame guys coming out into the draft. So what's your scouting report on Michael Mayer, and do the Dolphins need to load up on more guys from the Irish?
Yeah, I mean, you never have too many Notre Dame guys on the team, I think. So you're right there. Yeah, I've only met him once. Actually, yeah, I've only met him once officially last summer in Nashville. And he's a great guy. I know people in the organization still, so I've only heard good things about him, as a football player, obviously what most people see, but I've heard great things about him off the field as well. So I think, at least for me personally, that resonates the most, that he's keeping up with the Notre Dame tight end lineage. So that's exciting. And, I'm excited for him. I think he's going to do some exciting things.
Thanks.
Chris,
Hey, Durham. I wanted to get back to the boys are back, because that's got my interest. What's the feeling in the building this April 25th versus last April 25th, keeping in mind expectations are higher, Fangio is there, Ramsey is there, Chubb is there, it's Mike McDaniel's second year. What's different from this year at this time this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously things change every offseason. You bring in new people and such, but I think there's just a familiarity with, not only teammates from, the last year and last calendar year, because obviously there's been a good amount of turnover here in the last couple of years. So there's some familiarity with guys that have been here for a while. And then obviously some excitement from guys that we've added. So I think when you combine those two things, and then you just have a bunch of good personalities, just a bunch of good dudes in the same building. It's excited to get back in. Everyone's excited to get back in here just to hang out. Like the off season's, it's great. For a couple of weeks, then you're like, wow, like kind of miss just hanging out with the boys all the time. So I'm excited to get back to that, and I think that says a lot about how this team is constructed in terms of just good dudes, personalities, and such.
And the higher expectations, I know obviously you guys know that you went to the playoffs, a lot of people are returning, but how does that affect you? Do you feel the higher expectations in any way, if that makes sense?
I don't know if you necessarily feel it or if I feel it personally, but I think it's obvious that, like I mentioned earlier, on paper, there's a lot of talent here. So for me, I don't know if that necessarily translates to higher expectations just directly, but obviously it's hard to ignore the fact that this is a very talented team, and I think there is some responsibility, I think is what I would call it, some responsibility to play well, and to develop some excitement with the fans, and really just win games at the end of the day.
Thanks.
Joe,
So Mike Gesicki had 30 other teams he could have gone to, and he goes Patriots. What did you think when you heard like Patriots?
Yeah, well, I thought it was a direct shot at me, because if he's not staying here, that he'd try to get at me in some way, and that's probably one of the more direct paths to be able to do that. So yeah, obviously he had 31 other choices, and he chose the one to spite me the most, and it was to me directly, I believe. So good for him. We'll see him twice a year. That's exciting, and those will be some fun games.
I was surprised when I looked at this thing that's in the draft guide, and it says how the team was built. I was surprised. And I tweeted it, and I don't know if you saw, but the only guy who's been on the roster longer than you is Xavier Howard. One guy has been around longer than I think of you as very young still. Did you know that stat? Did you see it? Is it surprising?
I did know that stat, and the only reason I knew that stat is because last season, me and Mike had a running joke that I was the longest tenured offensive player because I signed my rookie contract before he did, even though he was drafted before me. So there was some conflicting opinions about who was the longest tenured offensive player. So that's the only reason I know that. And now that he is playing for the enemy, it's obvious that I'm the only one left. So
Thanks, Dor.
Omar,
5 years ago, you were kind of the last of a dying breed because you actually knew how to inline block as a college tight end. Now, 5 years later, what do you think of the college landscape of that position?
You know, it's funny. I know that was kind of the narrative that was built around me coming out of college, and for good reason, because I, didn't have wild stats and we ran the ball a lot at Notre Dame. But when I got to the NFL, I quickly realized that what I was good at in college, you're not immediately good at in the NFL. So it's funny that I think it's taken me really a full 4 or 5 years to become comfortable. And obviously there's still plenty of room for improvement, but it takes a while to at this level, be able to replicate what you did in college, especially in, blocking in line. So I think that's just something that you have to build on from a year-to-year standpoint. And I think, I guess to answer your question, the landscape, I don't know how it is now. I mean, I'm assuming it's similar, but that it's definitely something that takes a while and to get comfortable with at least. And then obviously there's always room for improvement. So just build on that.